Hello and welcome back to the final part of my Thomas Christmas retrospective. If you haven't watched the previous parts, there are 3 of them, so there's lots of Thomas content for you to sink your teeth into. But assuming you're all caught up, let's crack on with the episodes. So moving on now to the big world, big adventures era of Thomas, where the show decided to rebrand itself to being terrible. Or at least that's what I've heard, as I haven't actually seen any of these episodes. So for all I know, they could in fact be great, and the best thing Thomas has ever done. So I'm going to go into the episode Kangaroo Christmas with my hopes so unreasonably high. Okay, so in the big world, big adventures stuff, Thomas travels the world and half of the characters are removed. Well, more than half the characters it seems, as this episode starts with Thomas having to speak directly to the audience, as there's seemingly no one else left. That's another thing about these episodes, they've gotten rid of the narrator completely and just got Thomas to narrate the episodes himself. So I'm guessing all the episodes are going to be about Thomas now? Well, this one certainly is, with Thomas being in Australia. And here he dreams about and wishes for snow, despite the fact that he famously hates snow and his snowplow. Whatever, we'll ignore that bit for now. So this episode revolves around a little girl who gets a kangaroo toy for Christmas, and she likes it so much that she just decides to leave it on Thomas while she boards the train. A real kangaroo then shows up and takes the toy thinking it's her baby. So instead of doing his job and taking the passengers to the next station, Thomas decides it best to chase down the kangaroo and find its actual baby kangaroo, and my god, this is terrible! What the hell is any of this? 2 out of 10. Thomas's animal arc. The boiler breaks at the zoo and all the animals are cold, so Thomas takes them all and lets them stay in his shed. Come on, this is madness and certainly no way to run a zoo. It's okay, this is a kids show, and never has it been more clear to me that this is in fact a show for young, very, very young children. It didn't always feel that way, it used to feel like a family show that people of all ages could enjoy. But no, now we get an ostrich laying an egg on James. What am I doing with my life? Really? James stays in his shed until the ostrich egg hatches. I don't know, fine, whatever. This episode gets a ostrich laying an egg on James out of 10. Nia's bright idea. Okay, first thing, I'm struggling to get past the weird redesigns of the characters. All of the characters are just covered in rivets now, which makes them just not look nice. I get that it makes the characters look a bit more realistic, but if realism is what you're going for, then maybe just start with not having episodes where Thomas brings a whole zoo full of animals into his sheds. Anyway, Nia's bright idea is another snow episode. The Fat Controller has to fly to a party in Harold, and Harold can't see through the snowstorm. What's weird here is we never see Harold's driver, and the Fat Controller only speaks directly to Harold. I don't think there is a driver. I think Harold is flying himself, which is frankly a terrifying prospect. So Nia has the bright idea, oh I get it, to light up the carnival wheel to guide Harold to the carnival. This episode was just so bland and long and boring. It was a little bit educational with a lesson about lighthouses and their function, but I'll be honest with you, I'm still thinking about the ostrich that laid an egg on James. Yes, I know they did something similar in Donald's Duck, but there wasn't an ostrich and there wasn't a zoo full of animals. I don't know, that episode broke me. The head of the zoo must have got back that day and said, where have all the animals gone? And the zookeeper would have to just be like, I gave them all to a train. You did what? I gave them all to a train. He said it was a good idea. They were cold. What are you talking about? Get them back now. I can't. An ostrich laid an egg on James. What the f***? You're fired. Ugh, these episodes have just become so bad. Just so bad. I really don't think Thomas can get any worse. No, not that. Anything but that, please. Please. No! Thomas and Friends, all engines go. Okay, first off, I'm going to start with the theme song, because that's already annoyed me. Not the 2D animation, I've already had to swallow the pill of them moving away from models years ago. The jump from 3D to 2D isn't that egregious. I think if used correctly, 2D animation can allow the characters to appear far more expressive, and seeing as these characters are pretty much all face, that's one thing that I'm looking forward to in this show. Yes, Thomas's voice here is very high, I'm guessing an actual child is voicing him, let me just check that. Yes, Aaron Barashi in the UK version and Misha Contreras in the US version, who do both look pretty young, I've got to say. But that doesn't mean they'll necessarily be bad. Not all child actors are bad. That kid from the film Room, Jacob Tremblay, he was good. Stranger Things, they were all kids. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, and it might work with the older mentor Gordon-Thomas relationship. I'm not even annoyed that Thomas has just done a Sonic the Hedgehog the moment he comes out of his shed. I'm not sure why having that there would benefit a railway. I don't know how Thomas could build up enough speed that quickly to achieve that kind of momentum. And sure, no larger engine could possibly hope to get round that thing. But it adds some more dynamic movement to the show and might in fact make the visuals more interesting to look at. I can accept all of that, but the thing I can't take is that in a 15-second theme song, Thomas interrupts his own singing twice with a whoa. He cuts off the lyrics and the singing twice with the same whoa! And that just angers me. Okay, enough putting off watching the actual episodes. Deep breath, here we go. Christmas Mountain. Okay, immediate thing that I hate about the art style, some of the characters stretch as they talk and it's not particularly smooth or pleasant. It's definitely some kind of cheap flash animation, maybe using Toon Boom, but they also add this horrible metal creaking sound effect every time they do it, which just draws attention to it. As for the actual story of the episode, Thomas is giving a Christmas tour on a frankly unsafe bit of track. He takes with him the character Bruno, who I believe is the autistic brake van, and sure, it's nice to have this inclusion in a kids show, even if the old art style used to make the show incredibly popular with autistic children due to the clear facial expressions and slower pace, whereas the new, quick, hyperactive animation of this new iteration would make it very much the opposite of that, but let's not worry about that. And let's also not worry about the tour Thomas is giving, because that plot point just gets abandoned for a new one, where they need to find a Christmas tree. They try to use crossing signals, Percy, and even a T-Rex. And although my computer keeps auto-correcting T-Rex into tree, a T-Rex is not in fact a tree. Why can they not just use a tree? That's another thing about this episode. Everyone's too nice to each other. Even Diesel offers to help. Can you imagine what the Season 5 characters would say about this? Thomas, you f***ing find a proper tree already and piss off. They end up turning the mountain into a Christmas tree while singing a truly forgettable song, and the episode's thankfully over. The thing is, this episode was so nothing to me. I didn't like it, I didn't even hate it. It evoked no emotion in me whatsoever. It was so forgettable that the moment it finished, it had already mostly leaked from my brain. This show has just become something to stick in front of a toddler's head for 10 minutes and nothing more. But guess what? They made another Christmas episode. Whiteout. It's a snow episode. The episode begins with Gordon turning up to the sheds. Wait, did he just have to do the loop-de-loop? Maybe there's another track. He tells Thomas and Percy that there's no more deliveries today, but Percy wants to make sure all the post gets delivered in time for Christmas.
And Hanukkah's even sooner!
And Kwanzaa, right, Percy? Don't forget Kwanzaa. He forgot Kwanzaa. Gordon seems to have taken up the role of a fat controller in this show. He shows up near the start of each episode and gives exposition. Actually, I haven't seen the fat controller in this at all. Maybe the engines finally overthrew their masters and decided to run the railway for themselves. That's why there's no drivers. That's why they refer to the passengers as humans, not people. Because there's something different. Something they fought a war against. Maybe engines died in that war, and that's why there are only like 8 left in the show. They're the only survivors. I'm putting off watching this episode again. Okay, so Percy has to deliver the mail through the snow or it'll ruin
Christmas and Hanukkah!
But not Kwanzaa. Percy doesn't care about Kwanzaa. Ugh, they have little smoke hands. Gross. So Percy leaves and Thomas goes with him for seemingly no reason. Also, only Thomas gets the snowplow, not Percy who's, actually trying to do some work. Once again, Cranky shows up and is voiced better than any of the other characters. Well done to all these cranky actors. They make this show partly bearable. Whiff then shows up, so there were more survivors then. And they deliver a present to him. Thomas and Percy then plan on hearing, smelling and feeling their way through the storm to deliver the rest of the gifts. Which does in fact confirm a theory I had in a previous video about them being able to sense outside stimuli. Percy even mentions that he has ears.
I don't know where they are, but he has them. I just need them now to taste their way through and I'll be sorted. So they show up at the station and wow, the Fat Controller isn't dead. That's the real happy ending here. This episode was better than the last one, if that means anything, but it's also still an episode of All Engines Go. Well, I did it. That was every single Christmas episode of Thomas and Friends reviewed now. If I have missed any episodes out, please don't tell me because I don't want to go through this again. If you've watched the whole thing, then well done to you. Thank you so much. Be sure to give this video a like, a comment, and a subscribe. And happy holidays. Especially Kwanzaa. Happy Kwanzaa.